The first poem that I shall read was the first poem in my first volume. Like any poem, it uses an image or a symbol. I seem to be talking about the grain of corn within the earth, but I'm really talking about the human soul cast down into this world of time and matter and made to grow toward the light. I call the poem Birth. The grain of corn within the earth knows well the agony of birth. It lies with stones for bedfellows, in mould still damp with perished snows. It feels the dusky, breathless dirt heaped on it, and must lie inert and frigid till the raindrops swell, breaking its heart, its stubborn shell. Then in slow anguish it must thrust its pale head upward through the crust of the oblivious earth, and send thin fingers of its life to rend food from the sunless, deaf, profound, stony abysses of the ground. It has but rain and mould to eat, and damp pink earthworms at its feet. So my soul lies in darker earth, a seed in agony of birth, waiting half hopeless to be born, perhaps as tassel-whispering corn. The second poem is one that I wrote once by the Gulf of Mexico. I went out and saw the stars above us, and it seemed to me they were like white birds flying, and so I wrote this poem. Stars over the earth like white birds flying, stars over the earth like birds of passage. Whence do you fly, O migrant birds, and whither? Stars do not heed my question, stars do not answer. How could they answer, save to repeat the question? Deep in the heart alone, in the heart forever, in the heart of all things lies the one dynamic. All things here on the roads of time are pilgrims, strangers here in the world and aliens ever, seeking ever the road to their lost home, heaven. Therefore, fellow stars, we are birds of passage, restless and swift forever, like white birds flying. And this from Dawn is Forever, which I called Invitation to Life. I've always loved the merry-go-round, and it seemed to me a sort of symbol of life. Invitation to life. Listen, here is the merry-go-round, a flying orbit of gaudy sound. The music clashes against the roof, and the horses whirl on gleaming hoof. The prancing, dancing horses go around and around in a flying row. And here, speed-tranced and music-born, flashes a glossy unicorn. Space is a dance and time a game. Gay as a shadow-dappled flame, a zebra gazes with bright regard across the bluff huge St. Bernard. And a child is seated, proud and quaint, on a lion superb in his tawny paint. The children ride in a blur of dream to the happy blare of the tune-shaped steam, and the wheel of the creatures round and round turns to a tune of spheric sound, like the world itself in miniature, and joy today seems a thing secure. Here are the coursers of the sun, and the wheel of the world where they prance and run. They call to us who are outside, and we, if we only will, may ride. Come, let us ride the merry-go-round in a crashing, flashing blaze of sound. You on the lion, music born, and I speed-tranced on the unicorn. And this, which I call Will and Testament, not having too much to leave, I want to be sure it is legally right. Will and Testament. When I am dead, this be my will and codicil. To earth I do bequeath and give my fugitive obstreperous flesh for flour and wheat, blithely to eat. My bones enduring tracery I leave to be, exhibit labeled categoric, man prehistoric. Having no need of it past death, I give my breath to air that is the bird's abode and the sun's road. The world her Maytime trees that loom, white hills abloom, her bluebirds like winged iris shaken where buds awaken, her cloud-deep skies or daisy thicket shading the cricket, I leave to any who like me has eyes to see. I give, if it persists, my song to bless and throng the swift 12 winds of the world that fly through all the sky, blown a winged thistle-seed of sound toward its own ground. I yield the love that tortured me with ecstasy to any strong enough to bear joy and despair. As for my joy itself, I deed it to all who need it, hitchhikers seedy and too gray, or dogs astray, at whom the careless hand has thrown the careful stone. Sadness that made my young heart grave, I give to save all of us callous ones who go unhelped by woe, my loneliness to everyone who seeks the sun. To my Lord Don Quixote, hurled against the world by his own nobleness to be men's mockery, I will my madness to increase his tragic peace. My cowardice I keep, of such men have too much. To scholars for inheritance my ignorance, pure darkness, eager for truth's white, amazing light. I deed my laughter to the wise to clear their eyes, and any surplus to a cow, for she knows how to moo and put a poker face on the world's grace, making by genial occult powers cream out of flowers. I give my anger and my hate to wake, though late, albino gentle souls that dwell meekly in hell. I will my lazy calm to bless their restlessness, who take 9 stitches to save one, best left undone. I leave my strength to aid the rose against the snows, my patience to the snows that keep earth safe asleep. I give the dawn for those to take who are awake. Last I leave death, whatever he can hold of me. And this, which is a sort of poem of the joy of earth. Beneath white clouds lies a brown small bunny, whose eyes are bright and his fur is sunny. He lies in the grass and the wind goes over, bringing the wild all's well of clover. He feels today as if he were the only thing in the world, but he is not lonely. He lies and lets the breezes fluff his fur and his tail's white cobweb puff. The world is wide, but he is not giving a thought to aught but the joy of living. He samples the wind till his damp nose wrinkles with rich delight into tiny twinkles. The grass is swayed by the breeze's motion, daisy foam on a timothy ocean. The earth is cool and pleasant under his feet that are sleeping pads of thunder, and the world exists for a little bunny who lies in the wind with his fur all sunny. And this, which is a sadder mood, which one does feel, for the world contains not only light but shadows. I call it November Heart. My heart is like desolate woods on a somber day when autumn is dying. Down and down through the air the vague leaves stray where their fellows are lying. The skies are gray and chill with a hint of snow and of change and disaster. Death lies over the maple's coral glow and the fading aster. Still through the leaves, the fallen leaves, the squirrel runs loud, but he only makes their flutter a rustle of faded suns, and the day more lonely. My grief is more than the stubborn heart can bear, or the vain lips utter. November covers my life, and down through the air my vague days flutter. Or this, which really happened once, and I think is true, which I call Footprints of the Lightning. I prayed for rain across the stormy hills, drifted the pearl-grey mountains whence there spills the river of healing, and I watched them come. I heard the thunder like a hidden drum beating for war in some far valley. Cool, the splashing rain grew rivulet and pool, bringing new green to the bronzed grass. O fair, beneficent, gentle cataracts of air! Sudden the leap of flame and the great roar in the same instant. Fiery visitor, the lightning set his feet upon my lawn. In splendor come, in splendor he was gone. But he had left his footprints, gashed and torn, as by the slash of some vast zigzag thorn. For 50 feet his trace and track lay done across the earth where his golden feet had run. Thus death and life, thus providence and doom, are mingled in this world of blight and bloom. Let no one pray for rain unless he dare endure the lightnings leaping from the air, setting their footsteps firm and perilous upon the riven earth, perhaps on us. And this, which I call Man on the Moon. We boast of rockets to the moon and weekends on the lunar chalk. We plan to picnic or to walk golf courses of perpetual noon, brittle and strange and shadow-strewn, where gentian mountains blot the sun. The moon may ask, what have I done to merit such invasion? I have blessed your night with borrowed sun, vision alloyed with mystery, have turned to pale sane lunacy the paths of lovers as they go, sheltered yet shown by such alloy of sunshine softened into joy. I lead your tides like shaggy hounds, fast in a silver leash of sky, delight you with my gleaming rounds, bubbles of strangely frozen light, or my curved crescent cameo. Such is my bounty, such your right, such is the reason I was made, a chalk and mirror's pitted glass, barren of clouds or birds or grass, mere killing light, mere chilling shade, to contemplate but not invade. Why must you spoil the spell of night, subverting all your own delight? But we who vulgarize the fair vistas of earth, who fouled her woods and turned her bison solitudes into a fog of blowing dust, still threaten arrogantly to thrust a litter past the gulfs of space to desecrate her lonely grace. We would invade the moon, would bear across the outraged stratosphere rubble of pasteboard, cans of beer, pop bottles, ashes, cellophane, effluvia of birth control, Kleenex with raspberry lipstick stain, the monkey play of rock and roll, jukeboxes blare, torn comic books, the blanched charred butts of cigarettes, into our loneliest, loveliest nooks. We'd make a mundane replica of her dead craters or the stark sockets where once her seas were dark. The shadow-marbled moon is far, unravaged, secret, wonderful. Softly she rises or she sets, blossom of light too fair to cull. Who do we men suppose we are? With swish, with zoom, with gaseous roar, we lust to leave this gutted, flecked planet our hasty greed has wrecked, and blithely and still brashly soar to make the moon our satellite, fantastic commissars of night. So it may be so, but after such gross overthrow, will tides revisit still our shore? Will lovers still accept her spell? Will Artemis forevermore, the holiness, the miracle, be exorcised as old wives lore? Still Lucifer, the morning star, who fell from heaven because his pride was passionate, was sinister, stretches his empire still more wide, shattering the poetry of God. Yet as he spreads his boundaries broad, he brings the last catastrophe nearer, and knows his victory, the only guerdon of his war, is nullity, is nothingness. He boasts to make man more and more, but ever makes man less and less. And man with Lucifer allied, lusts to destroy himself and die, a commissar who rapes the sky in hate, in nihilistic pride. Yet if the strong wrecked angels win the outer world, the inner soul, they reach again the origin that is our fountain and our goal. If their dark victory shall bring once more the full, the primal night, God shall repeat, "Let there be light," and bid the birds of Eden sing. And this, which is a love poem, I call it In Her Heart Forever. White on the blue of the lake, a water lily lies and glows superb in the perfect morning. Fragrant there in a trance of sun she shimmers, flower of snow with cool sweet sun for center. Trance myself alone and lost forever, save for that blinding flower of utter beauty. World forgetting, I drift through the gold blue morning. She is reason and she is reward for living. Would that I were a bee, the golden banded, cradled there in her fragrant heart forever. And two sonnets from Ulysses to Penelope. Ulysses in his wanderings is thinking of Penelope, and he says, I stand with evening on the purple hills. The sun we love, declining to the west, leaves only smouldering crimson codicils. To witness night, one star is manifest. And as I watch the westering sun, I say, I send the sun to you, I send the sun to you, Penelope. I give the day to clothe our world in garments splendor spun. Accept the sun, accept the day, and know it is my heart, my burning heart, that brings the sudden glory of night's overthrow. I am your sun, whereby your dawn bird sings. I send the sun to you, Penelope, under his crimson wake, and think of me. And another sonnet of Ulysses to Penelope. When the moon rises from the loud-voiced sea, completely orbed in mountain marbled light, you lift your lonely eyes, Penelope, to scan that circle of the summer night. And I too, sundered by the alien seas, turn toward that tryst of light we keep in heaven. Each month we watch her wane and then increase, where the pale stars like flocks of sheep are driven across the oceans of dividing fate. We turn where beauty makes our spirits one. Distance can neither sever nor abate our meeting on that mirror of the sun. Our assignation be night's silver noon. Meet me, Penelope, upon the moon. And one more, which I call Of Inner Weather. The golden horse on the barn roof stands proud aloof in the wind's course. He seems to run as the winds veer, now there, now here, through shadow or sun. And yet his race, since he began to run for man, lies not in space. His stranger speed is to stand still in rooted will, like time's blown reed, and so reveal each wind whose breath brings life, brings death, while seasons wheel. O golden brother, set lonely high next the naked sky, I am your other self, our goal, apart, together, to tell the weather of sky and soul. And this, which really happened once in Rhode Island, and which I call forest fire. Sudden I saw above a wooded hilltop smoke in a pale yet bluish column coiling and swaying like the hooded head of a cobra. I knew the April trees were leafless, naked under the sun, and round their feet were lying dry, dead and dry, the matted leaves of winter, ready for flame like torn and wilted paper. I drove to meet the fire, it seemed my neighbor, in that I drove 10 miles before I found it, arrogant orange whence the tall smoke towered. I had to flee it. As the car was turning, 3 seeds of fire, wind-borne, came sifting into the dead leaves. In the woods around me, 3 pools of flame, shaped like the pads of lilies, kindled and spread till all the woods was seething close at my flying wheels. And swifter, swifter, lashed by a northwest wind, the flame came leaping over the wilderness of hill and forest, toward our own woodlands, toward our own loved woodlands. A man can flee, but every tree is rooted by her own very life. A tree is the captive of her own love. She cannot pull her roots up and run for life from hurricane or fire. And I who loved the trees, I could do nothing. Passive, I had to leave them bound and passive. I watched from a high tower the smoke come storming over the helpless hills, the hopeless forest, a coiling cobra with his flame fangs striking. So on our continent the fierce invader shall come in arrogance of bleak disaster to trample all we love in brutal terror. And this, in a more humorous mood, which I call the cow. That 4-legged fountain called a cow is stranger than the Sphinx. What Oedipus has told us how green grass within a copper cow turns the white milk he drinks. The rock from the Arabian tale was not so strange as she. Jonah's apartment in the whale, beside her alchemies a pale and gentle verity. God's jolly cafeteria with 4 legs and a tail, as mystic as the Kabbalah, an elf in Rufus taffeta, she pours us ivory ale. The tavern of the crumpled horn, she pours a cosmic flood that antedates John Barleycorn. 'Twill feed the Superman unborn, it nourished Adam's blood. She eats the grass and honeydew, the buttercups and daisies, and she will dream and chew, invite her soul and loaf and moo life's rude and wholesome praises. Her udder is a holy grail, whence heroes, saints, and lovers, yes, all the sons of man grow hale. Oh, she's an ambulant fairy tale that's bound in leathern covers. And one more from Before the Swallow Dares, ultimate antonym, which tries to express how man must aim beyond himself to hit the target that he wishes. I call it, therefore, the dream. Shooting at something distant, we must aim, not at our target, but a kind of star, shining above it as a point of flame. Our targets are not really where they are, for always earth, the pull of earth, the drag of gravitation, bows the arrow's flight. It leaps exultant, but its thrust will lag, because the world is jealous of all height. Earth bends it from its proud trajectory. Infinite line becomes the finite arc. Each arrow spending curves inexorably, and by our failure we must hit our mark. So in the high trajectory of the soul, to reach his goal, man aims above his soul. And a poem which I call Deeper River. Deep in the earth there are waters flowing, springs and brooks through the darkness going, shadowy rivers beyond our knowing. Under the roots of the tacit grasses, under the jut where the boulder masses, soundless the cryptic water passes. Secret as young leaves folded neatly, deep in the bud they are hid completely, waters flowing through shadows sweetly. Hushed and hidden is all their song, hidden and hushed their rainbow throng. Over the earth and their strength the earth is strong. Yet in the dark is their flow securer, their sealed intrinsic course is surer, their unguessed being is colder, purer. And over this living flow the pendant clover and willows grow transcendent, ever their leaf shall glow resplendent. Their roots find life and their soft leaves quiver, touching the life of the hidden giver. But how shall man find the deeper river? And this which I call Voyage to the Infinite. The water lilies float and sway, superb beneath the golden day, like galleons tiered with ivory, transplanted from an ancient sea. They bear within each gleaming hold ingots of pollen dusty gold. Only that buccaneer the bee boards them on this quiet sea. Except his drowsy violence, nothing breaks their innocence. O splendid convoy of the sun, where is the port to which you run? Across the summer strong and frail, steadfast from God to God we sail. And this in which I try to express the feeling of the artist in the world. Overture. Said the string of the violin, why do you stretch me thus, tortured and tremulous? One turn more and I break. And I said, for music's sake and origin. And my own heart, wan and thin, cried, why do you stretch me so, torn between woe and woe, heartbeat become heartbreak? And he said that your life may wake and song begin. And finally, a poem which I call In Him We Live, that attempts to express my fundamental faith. Under thy stars on the seas of the world I float, fragile I drift, for my body is only a boat, sport of the winds and tides, now here, now there, plaything of moon whim, toy of the shifting air. But thine the winds and thine the moon-led tides, held in thy hands forever the sea abides. The winds and the tides are thine, and the very sea, and my boat can never drift outside of thee.